Well, in your relatively early days at ARC, right? It's a relatively young organization. You've had some pretty, I would say, significant announcements. So recently, a partnership with NVIDIA was announced, where I think NVIDIA talked about ARC's biology and machine learning researchers are working with NVIDIA's engineers to scale the potential of AI models to design, predict, and understand biology. This partnership will build on ARC's previous work with the Evo model, which is capable of both prediction and design at the level of DNA and RNA and proteins in single-celled organisms. In parallel, I think one kind of fun story that caught my eye was, I follow the co-founder of OpenAI, Greg Brockman, on Twitter, and I noticed that when he took a sabbatical, he posted a picture as he was wrapping up that sabbatical. You were in that photo. He was at ARC, and he was describing how he had spent some time at ARC, and from his Twitter post, which is pretty lengthy and interesting, he says, overall, it makes it feel like the AI field has been creating a data abstractor over these past 80 years, which can be pointed to any kind of data and derive some useful sense of its structure to help make all of our lives better. He then says, there's a lot of exciting discoveries waiting to be had, coupling computational techniques with ARC's wet lab capabilities. So some really great partners in AI. Maybe just double clicking a bit on Greg's post there. He's coming in, as we maybe talked about earlier, right, of folks that have these, really amazing kind of AI, structural engineering type systems engineering backgrounds, combined with, the expertise that you have in science. Like, what do you feel that you learned from each other's perspectives in that partnership?
No, absolutely. I think exactly. I think it doubles back to what you mentioned earlier, that how do you actually build and take advantage of cross-disciplinary teams and someone like Greg and the type of impact that they've had on large language models, and how can you leverage it, that for some of what we want to do in biology. The reality is that, as someone who has done machine learning and AI in academia for the most part, going to tens of GPUs is basically like the extent of what we have done. And it turns out going to thousands of GPUs is really, really hard. Who knew, right? Again, that's like some of those things that I touched on earlier, that, we don't really necessarily respect what we don't know, right? We don't know how much, anyone in my situation, might think that, well, we train something on 100 GPUs, now we do it on 1,000 GPUs. What could go wrong? It should go 1,000, 10 times faster. But in reality, that's not how things unfolded. And thankfully, Greg was there, right time, right place to really come and teach us how it's done, how we can actually approach this problem of distributed training and a scaling training, large language models in biology. And what I was really surprised by was also kind of how in the woods he was, that, he would actually spend time, fixing problems, and he would actually write these really long, debugging threads that was very educational, for all of us. So he was an amazing partner. I think we would not be here without really his support for the team. He also, to be honest, his star power was really crucial in helping even form the team. If you have a team that Greg is part of, everyone else wants to pay attention and work with this team in a variety of forms, which actually brings us to NVIDIA. We've been really great thought partners around kind of how can we not only build and train these kinds of really large language models that are useful in biology, but also serve them and make them kind of, provide them to the community in an easily accessible way. That, again, is not something that we as academics are really good at, right? I think ultimately realizing that, we are researchers, and then we're not necessarily good at solving engineering problems on either side, right? And really being like ARC is a place where you acknowledge that, and at the same time you're in a position to actually reach out and actually ask for help and support from a variety of other organizations and folks who can actually help us basically fill in these gaps.